Hunger poem. It is composed by Jayant Mahapatra, an Indo-Anglian writer or poet. And this is the question for the examination: critical appreciation of hunger or critical analysis of the poem Hunger. Okay, and these are the very few important points for the exams to be prepared. The very first point or the very first heading you can have: Hunger is the most remarkable poem. And why this is the most remarkable poem? Because it was republished. It was published again and again, or it was published several times. Hunger is one of the greatest poem of Jayant Mahapatra, and because it earned a lot of fame in India, and it also got a lot of fame even in abroad. And this poem Hunger, it was first published, or it first appeared in his own edited biannual journal. The name of that journal was Chandrabhag. And then it was published in his book of verse, A Reign of Rights. A Reign of Rights of Jayant Mahapatra is also very famous collection of poems, and this poem Hunger, it was published in that collection of poems named A Reign of Rights in 1976. So it is one of the most remarkable and very hard hitting poems of Mahapatra about the degraded condition of people living in utter poverty. So this poem, we can find that how much popular this poem was, that it even impressed Bernard Young, an American poet and critic also, so much that he quoted the whole poem in the Hudson Review in 1972. So just knowing this point, you can make an idea that how much important this poem had been of Hunger, this poem Hunger of Mahapatra. So in 1987, Mahapatra, he again republished this poem in his volume of verse Selected Poems. Okay, first it appeared in his journal, and then it was published in 1976, and later it was quoted by an American poet Bernard Young in 1972, and now in 1987 Mahapatra, he himself again republished this poem in his volume Selected Poems. And this poem is still a fresh poem, a very original poem, and it is highly debated in the world of contemporary English literature. It even in 2010 it appeared again in a literary journal, that was Penny Sylvania. So no doubt that this poem is a very remarkable poem because of its republication. Second point is autobiographical elements. Autobiographical elements, it is supposed about this poem that this poem was based on a real incident, and we also find here the autobiographical elements because the poet Jayant Mahapatra, he himself is the narrator, and it narrates a very sordid episode, a very dirty episode in the life of the poet. In a moment away from his town, when he was tormented by the sexual impulse, and Jayant Mahapatra, he himself expressed this desire, that sordid desire throughout this poem, what he felt, what he did, and no doubt that was a very sordid episode in his life. So he, at that time when he was away from his town, and he expressed his desire, that sexual desire for a woman, to a poor fisherman at a beach of a sea, and the fisherman he guessed or he just have an idea that the poet, the narrator or Jayant Mahapatra himself, he had hunger. He had a hunger, and being poor, being starved, being helpless or indignant, the fisherman he decided to offer his own daughter to the poet. So that was really very surprising thing to the narrator and to the reader also, that the fisherman, a father himself, he was offering his own daughter to the poet only for the sake of money, because he was very poor. And uh, and uh, the the very shocking thing was that the father of the fisherman, he didn't feel any sense of guilt, and he himself led the poet to his poor dark cottage where his only 15-year-old daughter, okay, the daughter of that fisherman, the daughter of that father was hardly 15 years old. And he was so helpless, or he was so compelled to take himself, to take the poet to the cottage. And we can say that he was wrecked with poverty, and the father, he had little choice but to submit willingly to any man who could pay for the satisfaction of his sexual passion. So the poet felt inhibited for a while, but he satisfied his desire. So here we find autobiographical elements. Here, what is the theme, or what is the development of thought throughout the poem Hunger? Development, when we say the development of thought, throughout the thought, we find that hunger is not an ordinary poem. It is a very shocking poem because it shocks the readers. Not only the readers, as it also, the concept, it also shocked even the poet Jayant Mahapatra or the narrator. But no doubt that this poem is so shocking that we come to know the reality of poverty, reality of the helplessness of poor, or how much they are compelled to do that thing which just is like a taboo, and which should never been taken. We can say that which should never be happened in the life of a father, life of a daughter. So the theme or the concept or the idea or the thought of this poem is really very shocking. The poet, what is the thought of this poem? Let us just try to know in brief. Why we are saying that this poem is very shocking poem? Because the poet Jayant Mahapatra, he was away from his house, or from his town, from his city, and he was on a beach, on a sea beach, and he was tormented by sexual lust, and he wanted a woman to satisfy his that desire or his that passion. And there was a poor starved fisherman who offered to provide him a female. So the poet, he followed the fisherman across the sands of the beach, and the fisherman led him his own poor cottage. So the fisherman, he offered to the poet his own 15-year-old daughter, and for a moment the poet was stunned, he was shocked, or we can say he was very surprised, but soon he became a victim of that. So he approached the girl in the dark, who offered herself to the poet, and the poet satisfied his desire. So that was the development of thought. Now, if we come to the theme of hunger, the main theme of this poem is poverty and prostitution. Okay, poverty, and because of poverty, how people they go to prostitution. So the theme in this poem Hunger is poverty, starvation, hunger, as the title itself suggests, hunger, and it is only because of hunger, because of poverty, that uh, that the poor people, they don't care of morality, of principles, of right and wrong, and they are compelled to do the things which are very wrong. And it is only hunger which drive the poor to lose their human dignity, their morality. So here we find that the fisherman is the victim of poverty and he is victim of hunger. He is a lean and thin figure with bones sticking out of his skin. And if we just go through the poem, we shall find that what kind of words has been used by Jayant Mahapatra for this kind of fisherman, because he was poor, and so his claw-like hands dragging his nets out of the sea. Stricken by his poverty, the fisherman he gets ready to offer the speaker his own daughter for the gratification of his sexual desire. And he silently leads the speaker, that is narrator Jayant Mahapatra, to his poor dark cottage, and he offers his own daughter to him. Okay, and he offers his own daughter to whom? To Jayant Mahapatra, to the narrator, to the speaker, or to the poet, we can say in brief. And when he says, okay, when the fisherman says, my daughter, she has just turned 15. So then we come to know the age of the girl, the age of his daughter. So the fisherman, he turns himself away from the sight, and he asks the speaker, what he asks the speaker, to fill the girl all over and hurry with the things. So it all happened only because of poverty, because of hunger, because of starvation, which force the father, which force a father to prostitute his daughter who was hardly 15 years old. So as the girl surrenders herself, the poet feels the hunger there. So such a sensitive topic has been taken, such a sensitive theme has been taken by Jayant Mahapatra. The fifth point is justification of the title hunger. Okay, is this title suitable or accurate or proper? Jayant Mahapatra, he has given this title hunger. So we have to discuss here whether the title of this poem hunger is suitable or not. So justification of the title hunger or title of the hunger poem. In this way you can write this heading. Hunger, this poem is a very hard hitting poem, as I have told you that it is no doubt it is a very shocking poem, because it is based on the reality, on the helplessness of poor person, and that is why that we find there this helplessness, prostitution. So it is a very hard hitting poem, very shocking poem about the degraded condition of people living in poverty. This poem, it depicts the tragic compulsions which abject poverty can impose on a man. So this poem describes the life of a poor fisherman who, in the face of extreme poverty, drives his daughter to prostitution, much against his consciousness. So the word hunger has been used in okay, just focus your attention on this word hunger, the title of this poem, and this word hunger, it has been used in a double sense. In double sense, it means the acute desire for food. Okay, when we say hunger, so when we use this word hunger, it means the acute desire for food or for anything to fill the belly. That was the first sense. And the second sense is the desire for sexual gratification or sexual satisfaction. So that is the second sense. That is also the hunger, which we always call lust. So the person, the narrator, or the poet, he has the sexual desire, while the young girl, she desires only food to avoid starvation. So this poem is based on a true incident. It is a very real poem. So hunger is a very proper title, very suitable title, and Jayant Mahapatra, he has taken the best title for this poem, Hunger. So the next heading is use of images and symbols. Jayant Mahapatra, it was not possible for him to express his views, to present his ideas, his thoughts without taking the help of images or symbols, because it becomes very easy for him to express or to say whatever he wants to communicate, and for that he takes the help of, or he uses images and symbols. So the use of images, the use of symbols in this poem are all related to idea of only hunger. The Jayant Mahapatra, the narrator, he is seized by sexual passion, and it is a symbol of blind sexual desire working in a male. Here we find this symbol. The fisherman is a symbol of the basic human appetite, feelings of hunger. And the fisherman, he sets aside all feelings of conscience and offers his own daughter for prostitution. So the fisherman's daughter is also symbolic of hunger, while she surrenders herself to the speaker's lust. Her body is as cold as rubber, and she is just like, here is presented like a fish. Between her wide open legs, the speaker discovers only hunger. So in this way, Jayant Mahapatra, he has used a lot of images and a lot of symbols, and within few words he has expressed a lot of things. Next is our point, hunger, and as you were told in this heading also, hunger, it has two senses. Because this poem, hunger, it deals with the theme of sex, sexuality, and the naked poverty, starvation, hunger, helplessness. So this has a double meaning here. It is hunger in the belly as well as hunger below the belly. So this poem portrays both the hungers, both the hungers, and the narrator is beset with the sex hunger. So he sets out in search of a female to satisfy his desire. And the fisherman and his daughter, who was hardly 15 years old, they both also suffer from this hunger. The hunger that results from poverty. So to earn something to keep their body and soul together, the fisherman offers his daughter to the man who was also hungry, who had also hunger. So the daughter, a mere girl of 15, she trades her body to him as she opens her wormy legs. The man finds hunger there. Next is an Indian poem. This poem, hunger, is no doubt it is an Indian poem, because the main theme of this poem is starvation or poverty, and this poem portrays very well the dismal conditions prevalent in our country, in India, poverty and hunger, and starvation or prostitution or compulsion, poverty, hunger, here here are so acute that many families many families in India, they are forced to sell their women, means they are forced or they are compelled to go to prostitution, just just to keep alive, just to be survived. So this fact is very shocking that only for few breads a man or a woman is compelled to go to prostitution. And when the fisherman offers his own daughter to the narrator or to the poet, the customer feels that the sky, what kind of words Jayant Mahapatra uses, that the sky fell on me. So that is very shocking. And he can perceive that the fisherman has exhausted all his tricks to trap the customers for his daughter, and selling his daughter's body has become a routine for him, means the fisherman, it is a routine, it is a daily work for a fisherman to trap the customer for his daughter. And he means he works this daily. It is not a new work for him. But Jayant Mahapatra, he feels that it was a routine, it was a daily to daily life for the fisherman. There was nothing new for him. So he was not the first customer for his daughter. An Indian poem, okay, and the next our heading is tragic consciousness. Tragic consciousness. This poem, Hunger, it exhibits a tragic consciousness, which is the hallmark of Jayant Mahapatra's poetry. The dismal world of starvation and poverty. It is very well conveyed through the description of the fisherman's shack, when he uses the word opened like a wound. So that word is very tragic, and opened like a wound, that conveys the helpless, painful, anguished conditions of the Islam people, Islam areas. Next point is his poetic style. No doubt the diction of the poem is very simple, yet it is overloaded. Overloaded with what? Overloaded with images and with the symbols, because the language is overloaded, or the diction is overloaded with symbolic imagery, we can say. So maximum messages or maximum idea of Jayant Mahapatra we find here. He has conveyed a complete message through minimum words. Sex starvation of the narrator is conveyed through the symbolic image. If you go through the poem, you will find that what kind of images he has used through the symbols. The flesh was heavy on my back, and I saw his white bone thresh his eyes. And another line, that my mind thumping in the flesh is sling. Hope lay in burning the house I lived in. Oh, silence gripped my sleeves. The fisherman's shake, oh, opened like a wound. All these kinds of words present very well that Jayant Mahapatra has used a very unique poetic style, presenting or conveying his message, whatever he felt. He wanted to make his readers feel like that. So the next point is our hunger. Hunger, no doubt, it is great Indian poem in English. Okay, Hunger is a great Indian poem in English, and as it was republished again and again. So Hunger is one of the great peaks of Indian poetry, and this poem is a profoundly human document, we can say. Its power depends on the authenticity of the experience established by the words and their arrangement. And this poem achieves a happy blending of the literal and the metaphorical. Here we find a human relationship, as Jayant Mahapatra is known for presentation, the best human relationship, and all different kinds of relationship he likes to present. And in this poem Hunger we find a relationship between father and daughter. So the last point is a realistic original poem. Okay, Hunger is a realistic, and no doubt it is a realistic poem, and this is why that it is an original poem, because it presents the reality of society, reality of the world. We can say that it is not an Indian poem, but the concept, the theme is universal. It is a universal poem, because if there is poverty, hunger, starvation, then people, they go to wrong path, whether it is prostitution or whether it is selling their own relatives or their own children. So it is an original poem because such a concept was never borrowed, was never presented by any other poet in such a way as Jayant Mahapatra presented. So it is a realistic poem, and you can also write that it is an original poem. Next point may be taken a very heart touching poem. When we go through the whole poem and we come to know that our father is selling his own daughter only because of hunger, because of poverty, only for few money, then we we are very shocked, and we are very hurt. We just feel that how can it be, how can a father sell his own daughter, how can it be possible for a father to trap a customer for his own daughter. Means that is very heartbreaking concept here, but that is realistic. So this poem, the theme of this poem, the concept of this poem, also the message that was conveyed by Jayant Mahapatra is also very heart touching. So this is the critical appreciation of this poem, Hunger.